Imagine you're a police officer working one of the most baffling extortion cases in Japanese history. Then a letter arrives from the criminal saying, "You seem to be at a loss. Why don't you let me help you? I'll give you a clue." What would you do? Today we're diving into Japan's biggest unsolved extortion case, one that brought major corporations to their knees, caused thousands of products to be pulled from shelves, and sent stock prices plummeting. The mastermind? Someone or a group of people using the name of a villain from famous mystery writer Edogawa Ranpo. This is the story of the monster with 21 faces. This wasn't a spontaneous crime. Someone had been planning it for years. In 1976, 8 years before our story begins, someone calling themselves the Yellow Turbans started sending threats to the home of Katsuhisa Ezaki, president of Glico, a major candy company in Osaka. Letters and phone calls warning of something to come. Then, 2 years later, in 1978, something even stranger happened. A Glico executive director received a voice message from someone claiming to be a Puraku Liberation League official. The voice delivered a prophecy. A group was planning to kidnap Ezaki, set fire to Glico facilities, and distribute poisoned candy. The caller demanded 175 million yen and told Glico to place a newspaper advertisement as a sign of agreement. Glico never did. 6 years later, in 1984, everything the voice predicted would come true. On the night of March 18, 1984, around 9 p.m., 2 men, armed with a handgun and an air rifle, arrived at a quiet residential area in Nishinomiya City. They weren't alone. A third man sat in a car outside, ready to help them escape. The 2 men broke through the back door of an elderly woman's house. She was the mother of Katsuhisa Ezaki, the president of Ezaki Glico Candy Company. But the gunmen didn't want her jewelry. They didn't demand money. They wanted one thing: the key to her son's house next door. Once they had it, they moved to Ezaki's home. They tied up his wife Mikieko and their 8-year-old daughter Mariko, locking them in the bathroom. 2 younger children, Yukiko, age 4, and Etsuro, age 11, slept undisturbed in another room. The gunmen found Ezaki bathing. They put a gun to his head and forced him to come with them, still naked. They drove him to a small warehouse in Ibaraki, Osaka. Meanwhile, Mikieko managed to untie herself and call the police. The next day, around 1 a.m., the kidnappers called a Glico director and sent him to a location where he found their demands: 1 billion yen in cash, which is about $9.3 million, plus 100 kilograms of gold bullion. The Hyogo and Osaka police launched a massive joint investigation. Officers staked out the ransom drop location, but no one came. The logistics seemed impossible. How would anyone transport that much cash and gold? Even stranger, when Ezaki's family offered ransom directly, they got a letter back saying simply, "I don't need it." This wasn't about money. It seemed personal. 3 days after the kidnapping, a railway employee called police. He'd found Ezaki. The president had escaped from a flood control warehouse along the Ai River, ran to the Osaka freight terminal across the water, and was rescued by workers. He appeared before the media, safe but shaken. The kidnapping had failed, but this was just the opening move. On April 2nd, Ezaki received another letter, this one taped to a container of eye drops filled with hydrochloric acid. It demanded 60 million yen to be delivered on April 8th. Again, no one showed up to collect it. That same day, letters arrived at 2 major newspapers. For the first time, the criminals were speaking directly to the public. 2 Japanese police fools. Are you stupid? With so many of you, what are you doing? If you're real pros, try catching me. I'll give you a hint. We're not Ezaki's relatives, we're not part of the Nishinomiya police, and we're not the flood-fighting corps. The car we used is gray, and the food was bought at Taiyei. If you want new info, beg for it in the newspaper. After all this, you should be able to catch me. If you don't, you're tax thieves. Should I kidnap the head director of the prefectural police next? It was signed The Monster with 21 Faces, the name of a villain from an Edogawa Ranpo novel. 2 days later, The Monster made good on the escalation. Around 9:20 p.m. on April 10th, 3 vans at Glico's production facility burst into flames. Containers of gasoline stuffed with cloth had been ignited. Witnesses saw a man in a hat running from the scene with a bag. A week after the fire, police found another note, this one taped to a jug of hydrochloric acid. The ransom demands kept coming. April 23rd, 120 million yen. Delivery set for April 24th. The driver never showed. On April 24th, another letter hit the newspapers. The monster was toying with them now. If you're having such a hard time, let me give you a clue. I entered the factory from the side staff entrance. The typewriter we used is a pen writer. The plastic container was street garbage. They were daring the police to catch them. On May 10th, 1984, the game changed completely. 4 major newspapers received a letter that would send the nation into panic. The monster claimed to have laced $21 million worth of Glico products with potassium cyanide. Some reports said hydrocyanic acid soda. They threatened to randomly place these poison products on store shelves. Parents threw out their children's candy, stores pulled thousands of Glico products from their shelves. The company lost over $20 million. Mass layoffs followed. When police tested the products, they found no poison, but the damage was done. The monster had weaponized fear itself. On May 31st, the criminals demanded 300 million yen. They told Glico to put the cash in a car and leave it at a restaurant parking lot in Seichu City on June 2nd. The police were ready this time. They deployed a 30-member team. Some hid in the rear trunk of the ransom car, others positioned around the area watching and waiting. But the monster was always one step ahead. That evening, about 2.8 kilometers away in Deyagawa City, a young couple was on a date in their car. Around 8:15 p.m., 3 men attacked them. The boyfriend fought back, but was quickly overpowered. They covered his head with a black cloth and threw him into another car. One attacker got in with a girlfriend and gave her boyfriend a simple order: drive to the designated location. When they approached the parking lot, the boyfriend was told to get into the ransom car. Police saw him and pounced. Finally, they had their man, except they didn't. They'd grabbed the wrong person. After a brief detention, they realized their mistake and let him go. The girlfriend was dropped off in a secluded area around 9:30 p.m. Her captor even handed her 2,000 yen for a taxi. Police tried to follow the suspects, but lost them at an intersection. In the early hours of June 3rd, the couple's car was found abandoned near a shrine. The monster had used 2 innocent people as pawns, and the police had fallen for it. On June 22nd, the monster found a new victim, Marudai Foods in Takatsuki City. The letter demanded 50 million yen and threatened them with Glico's fate. But the method was different now. They told the company to post a help wanted ad in a newspaper as a secret signal, then wait at the managing director's home with cash. 4 days later, on June 26, Glico received a strange letter. The monster claimed to forgive them and said they were fleeing the country. The company breathed a sigh of relief. It was a lie. 2 days later, on June 28, Marudai Foods got a call. A woman's recorded voice told them to check Takatsuki Station for instructions. Police split into 2 teams, one at the managing director's house, another at the station. At the station, they found a note with precise instructions. Board a train to Kyoto at a specific time. When you see a white flag on the left, throw the money bag out the window. 7 detectives boarded the train. One posed as Marudai employee carrying the cash. They couldn't make the exact timing, so they decided to ride from Takatsuki to the final stop in Kyoto without dropping the bag, hoping to spot the suspect. And they did. The undercover detective noticed a man watching his bag. He described him as Kitsune no otoko, the man with fox eyes. The detective knew this had to be him, but police policy was clear. They could only make an arrest if they caught the suspect red-handed during the cash handover. The detective had no authority to move. The fox-eyed man got off the train and disappeared into the crowd. In early July, another child's voice recording arrived, directing Marudai's director to a location with money. No one showed up. The monster was evolving, adapting. They'd moved on from Glico and were now attacking multiple candy companies. In September, they set their sights on Morinaga. On September 12, a letter arrived with an actual pack of Morinaga products laced with cyanide. The message was clear: comply or face the consequences. But the police had another crisis on their hands. On September 4th, a former Kyoto police sergeant named Masaharu Hirota committed robbery and murder. They were now investigating 2 major cases simultaneously, and their resources stretched thin. The monster noticed. On September 25th, they sent a public letter praising Hirota and mocking the police. No matter how hard an idiot tries, they're still an idiot. Study hard so you don't waste tax money. On September 18th, the criminals called Morinaga's Kansai branch. A child's voice recording gave them a location. When the victim arrived, another call came, moved to a different location. Then silence. No one ever came. People debated the child's voice. Was it a real child being coerced? Or was it lifted from a commercial or radio program and repurposed by clever criminals? Between October 7th and 13th, the nightmare escalated. Suspicious Morinaga products were discovered across 4 prefectures: Osaka, Hyogo, Kyoto, and Aichi. 13 products contained actual cyanide. But the monster wasn't just targeting the company anymore. They threatened stores directly, keep selling Morinaga products, and will destroy your business. On October 15th, a package arrived at NHK Osaka Broadcasting. Inside were cyanide tablets with a macabre challenge. Guess how many people these could kill? The prize, a poisoned Morinaga product addressed to the chief of the execution department. Police released a photo of someone allegedly placing poisoned products in a convenience store. On November 7th, another demand arrived, 100 million yen, but this time with something that made everyone's blood run cold, a voice recording of Katsuhisa Ezaki from his captivity back in March. The monster was reminding them they could strike anywhere, anytime. That same month, news of the Marudai food extortion finally went public. On November 14th at 8:20 p.m., a child's voice called with new instructions: go to Jonnangu bus stop. A detective on patrol near Kyoto Minami Interchange spotted someone, the fox-eyed man. Over the course of that evening, 3 different detectives saw the same man, 3 chances to catch him. The Shiga Prefectural Police had been called in to assist, but Osaka Police specifically told them, do not enter the Meishin Expressway. That's our territory. 2 Shiga detectives ignored the order. They watched the fox-eyed man acting strangely, following people, attaching something to a bench. They wanted to question him, but Osaka headquarters had strictly prohibited it. So they had to back off. When Osaka detectives finally arrived and saw the fox-eyed man acting suspicious, they too had no authority to question him without catching him in the act. He simply walked away. Around the same time, a field officer from Shiga, completely unaware of the operation, spotted a Nissan Sunny AD van with Osaka plates, license number 46HO2189, driving without lights. He approached the vehicle and found a man in the driver's seat. Before he could get any information, the car sped off. The officers gave chase but lost it. The van turned out to be stolen. The public was furious. The police had seen the fox-eyed man 3 times and done nothing. They found a suspicious van, and instead of blocking it, they parked alongside it, letting it escape. A month later, police released a sketch of this driver. By then, it felt too late. On December 4th, something bizarre happened in Hokkaido, over 600 miles away. Amateur radio operators in Iwanai County accidentally intercepted a conversation on 7 MHz off-band frequency. 2 people calling themselves 21 Faces and Tamasaburo were discussing a transaction with another candy company, Fujiya, that would turn out to be another extortion victim that month. "It's best to leave Fujiya alone," one said. "Let's move to another target." The record went public. Police tried to track the signal, but everyone wondered the same thing. Why would sophisticated criminals use easily intercepted radio instead of phones? Was this intentional? Another taunt? A diversion? Despite this breakthrough, it led nowhere. Frustrated and desperate, police published a composite sketch in January 1985. Days later, they announced their first real suspect, Miyazaki Manabu. He was the son of a known Yakuza boss, a criminal himself, and notably, a whistleblower who would expose Glico for illegally dumping industrial water into Osaka rivers. Police claimed his voice in the 1976 recording matched the monster's speech patterns. The timing seemed perfect. The grudge made sense. But after investigation, they just released him. His alibi was solid. So, back to square one. On February 13th, Valentine's Day, the monster struck at the heart of a romantic tradition. Cyanide-laced chocolates appeared in Tokyo and Aichi. Products from Morinaga, Glico, and Fujiya, all the monster's previous victims. Some boxes were marked poisonous and dangerous. Others were labeled poison-free. Why label some as safe? Was it a game? A test? No one understood the psychology behind it. That same month, Morinaga received a ceasefire letter. Their ordeal was over. On March 6, a traditional confectionery company called Suruyaga in Wakayama Prefecture received a threatening letter demanding 50 million yen. The criminals contacted them again, asking to reschedule. Then nothing. They never heard from them again. The monster seemed to be winding down, or losing interest, or have they achieved their real goal? The weight of failure crushed many officers, but none more than Shoji Yamamoto, the Shiga Prefectural Police Chief. He was the one who'd let the suspicious van slip away. He publicly stated he would take responsibility and offered his resignation in February 1985, and it wasn't accepted. And that frustration ate at him. On August 7th, he held a press conference, announced his resignation again, then went home. And he poured kerosene over himself and set himself on fire. He left 3 notes. They were never made public, but everyone understood. He died from the shame of failure, the traditional way. 5 days later, on August 12, a letter arrived. The monster sent condolences for Yamamoto's death, calling him a man who died like a man. Then they added a cruel barb. Other police officers should have died in his place. The letter declared an end to the terror. If any companies were extorted after this, it wasn't the real monster with 21 faces. They closed with a line that still sends chills down people's spines. It's fun to lead a bad man's life. Then, silence. The monster with 21 faces just vanished. In 1994, 10 years after Ezaki's kidnapping, the statute of limitations expired. The investigation was dramatically scaled back. On midnight of February 13, 2000, the statute of limitations expired for 2 attempted murders involving the poisoned products in Tokyo and Aichi, plus 28 other related cases. Over 1.3 million investigators had worked the case over the years. 125,000 people were investigated as possible suspects. Not one arrest was made. With no answers, people created their own. Was it the Purakumin? Remember that voice message from 1978, the one that predicted everything 6 years in advance? Some believed it pointed to the Purakumin, a discriminated social class in Japan descended from people with so-called impure occupations like executioners and butchers. The 1978 caller claimed to represent the Puraku Liberation League and described exactly what would happen: kidnapping, arson, poisoned products. And 8 years before that, in 1976, someone calling themselves the Yellow Turbans had already been threatening Ezaki. Was this an extremist group seeking revenge against Japanese society through its beloved candy companies? A long-planned vendetta years in the making? Or was it stock manipulation? And here's what's strange. Despite multiple opportunities, the monster never collected a single yen in ransom. But Glico's stock price crashed. It went from 745 yen in January 1984 to 598 yen on May 17th, the day after the kidnapping and arson. That's a 24.5% drop. If someone had shorted the stock or bought at the bottom before the monster's declaration of peace, they could have made a fortune. Miyazaki Manabu, remember him? The suspect who was cleared. He later became a writer and stock reporter for the magazine Shukan Gendai. He analyzed the case and pointed out something fascinating. Someone could have made 10 billion yen, not through simple stock trading, but by forcing companies to buy back their own shares at inflated prices. The lack of actual theft, the unconventional methods using children's voices, focus on public fear over profit. It all made sense if the real game was the stock market. Police even investigated waste shavings from a special electronic component called an electroluminescent found in the perpetrator's vehicle. It led nowhere. Was it an inside job? This theory haunts people the most. The kidnappers knew things they shouldn't have known. They called Ezaki's eldest daughter by name. They named his personal driver in the ransom note. They knew about obscure Glico affiliates that weren't public knowledge. They knew Glico could quickly raise 1 billion yen. And here's the detail that really stands out. They treated Glico differently than other victims. Glico faced kidnapping and arson, brutal personal attacks. The other companies just got extortion letters. When the monster wrote to other companies, they used the president's surnames: Haga, Matsuzaki, Murakami, Fuji. But with Glico, they used Ezaki's first name, Katsuiza. And that's personal. That's someone with a grudge. Was the Fox-Eyed Man protected? 3 sightings in one night, a stolen van approached by police, multiple chances for arrest or even basic questioning, and yet nothing. Orders not to question. Jurisdictional boundaries preventing action. A field officer unaware of the operation who happened upon the van. Many believe someone in law enforcement was protecting the Fox-Eyed Man. How else could he slip away so many times? The monster with 21 faces changed Japan forever. Similar crimes followed, like the Oronaminsi vending machine poisoning, targeting both companies and innocent consumers. The case became a symbol of how sophisticated criminals could bring corporations to their knees and make fools of law enforcement. But the questions remain. Was the Fox-Eyed Man the ringleader? Was it stock manipulation, an inside job, extremist revenge, police corruption? Or was it all these things at once, a perfect storm of grudges, greed, and opportunity? The monster with 21 faces promised to give the police clues, and they did. They left behind voices, sketches, intercepted radio calls, a distinctive van, waste shavings, multiple sightings of the same man, but somehow none of it was enough. The greatest mystery isn't just who they were, it's how they got away with it. If you have your own theory, let me know in the comments. This is true crime at its most cinematic, a blockbuster-level extortion case that reads like fiction, but terrified an entire nation. The monster with 21 faces orchestrated one of the most elaborate and audacious criminal operations in history, then disappeared without taking a single yen. So what do you think? Was the fox-eyed man the mastermind or just another pawn? Was this revenge, profit, or something darker? Why did they vanish so completely? Drop your theories in the comments, and that is all for today. Thanks for watching.